this evening. Appreciate you being here. This is our midpoint check-in call for PurpleStride Kansas City. We did we have a kickoff call with you in October? I'm trying to remember. I don't think we did for Kansas City. Skipped that one. Totally fine, because this is the call where we're really going to jump into the good stuff anyway. We're returning to the same site, and so a lot of this is familiar. And Stephanie, you've been in this role for a little bit now, so definitely didn't need to go over some of the basic stuff with you back in October. So we will jump right into the good stuff and get into the specifics for the Kansas City event.
All right.
The agenda up on the screen. It's just a quick glimpse at our roadmap for the conversation tonight. Basically, we're going to go over the drafts, the first drafts of the materials, the deliverables we have for you, the site map, the route map, the vendor tracker. This call is intended to be very collaborative, so we definitely want your input, your questions. Jump right in if there's something you want to know more about or add some insight into. Always good to have that input. I will go ahead and just pull my screen down for a quick minute so we can do a quick round of intros. I think that Ashley is new to you, so we're definitely going to allow her to say hello and just make sure everyone knows who everyone is. So I'll start for the Event 360 side. My name is Erin Piasky. I'm the account manager for PurpleStride on the Event 360 side. I also work very closely with Hannah on all things having to do with volunteer communication. So Hannah and I sort of serve as the funnels of information between our production team here at 360 and all of the PurpleStride affiliates across the whole country. I am based out of Minneapolis, and this will be my fifth year on the project. I've been with y'all since the beginning with our partnership with PanCan. So let me pass it over to Hannah.
Thank you. Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. I always have trouble with these. I'm Hannah. I'm the volunteer communications coordinator for Event 360 with PurpleStride. And yeah, I work right alongside Erin for all of the communication. So you'll see me and her mostly in your inbox. I'm in Chicago now, and this is going to be my first full calendar year with PurpleStride. So I started on the project this past year in January. So this will be my first year kind of starting at the beginning and seeing it all the way through to the end. So I'm excited. I'll pass it over to Ashley.
Hi, y'all. Ashley Marquis. I'm an event production coordinator. This is my fourth PurpleStride, but first time with Kansas City. So excited to be working with you all. I'm based out of Virginia, and I'm forgetting all your prompts, Erin. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, you're doing great.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see you all, and this is a very special project. So looking forward to it.
I think we all know Erin, other Erin.
No.
Stephanie and Sarah?
As Erin said, this is, I think, my fifth year with PurpleStride and PanCan in general. I have been involved in the PurpleStride for 4 years, and this is my third year being the host in charge, so to speak.
Great to have you back for another fun year.
Yes. I like copy and paste, so we're good with it.
Yes.
That's why we skipped October. I was like, she doesn't need to talk to me. It's fine.
Yeah. No, you had the right idea there. And Sarah.
So yeah, my name is Sarah. My timeline is basically the same as Stephanie's. I joined like a month before her. So been doing this. This is our fifth year with PanCan, fifth year at a PurpleStride, our third year that I've been assisting Stephanie with making sure that things get going and take off.
Amazing. Well, fantastic to have you all here. As we've mentioned already, this is a rinse and repeat market or a copy paste, as you said, Stephanie. So everything should be pretty familiar. We're just going to touch on a few things to make sure that our brains are all back in PurpleStride mode now that calendar year is officially 2026, and here we are in the countdown to April, which is going to be here before we know it. So just off the top, a couple of little housekeeping items. Let me jump back onto the screen share here. I always like to take the opportunity to plug the shared resource site. This site is at purplestrideinfo.org. It's very similar this year to what it's been the last couple of years, and acts just sort of as a hub for a lot of the resources that we need to share across the entire PurpleStride series, and specifically to Kansas City and all of the other specific events as well. So there's a document library on there, a link to the volunteer calendar, some friendly reminders and other things. You can always get there at purplestrideinfo.org. Specifically today, I was just going to call out some of the training and tutorial materials that we have on the site. PanCan does a really excellent job of maintaining these trainings and tutorials, adding new topics when there are things that come up that we think people can use a refresher on. There are some recorded trainings that are all just very short, little bite-sized, very specific topics of recorded training videos, as well as some documents that act as training materials. So you can find those in a couple of these places that I've linked here on this slide. We'll share this whole deck after the call is over, so you can have these links as well. In particular, I've called out here a couple of resources having to do specifically with the event route. And the reason I bring that up is because, again, this year, as we've done the past few years, we are leaning on the affiliate to identify a volunteer route lead. Since we have such small staff numbers at the PurpleStride events, we don't have a staff person specifically slotted to take care of the route operations, and so we do lean on the volunteers to identify somebody. I believe you had somebody in this role last year, maybe that's done it a couple of years. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, we have route leads for us.
Excellent. So assuming that they know what they're doing, these resources probably aren't going to get them much further than what they already know. But if anybody does want to just sort of bone up on what we do, how we typically run the route from our side when we're staffing events and things like that, these are some good resources that you have at your fingertips there. Checking in real quickly on our deliverables. So I mentioned already that we're going to go over some of these on the call today. We just did our first round of uploads of these documents this past Friday. So if you haven't popped into the Kansas City folder yet to take a look at them, totally fine and understandable. We're going to go over everything on this call. Just want to make sure you know that you can go back there and find them after the call is over in case you want to poke around a little bit more, look at things in more depth. So that would include the sitemap that we're going to look at, as well as the vendor tracker. You may hear us refer to that sometimes as the IRF, which is the infrastructure request form. That's the fancy name for vendor tracker. So we're going to go over that on the call today too. Here's where we are right now, reviewing documents on market call number 2. We're right at the beginning of our market call schedule here today. You guys are only the fourth one of these calls we've done yet. So we're kind of at the beginning of the month and the beginning of the process. We're going to spend the next few weeks going over all of these with all of the PurpleStride markets. And then everybody will have until the end of January to get us any additional feedback. So we'll take whatever input we get on this call as we're looking at things together. But then after the call is over, if you discuss it more on your own, you look at things in your own time and realize, hey, you know what, we actually want to change some of this stuff around. We want to move this or that or add requests for these particular elements or equipment. You can send us any of that by the end of the month, and any change requests that we get will be incorporated into the next round of updated documents, which we'll post to the shared resource site on February 9th. After February 9th or after the end of this month, you can, of course, continue to get us that feedback. You just won't see another new version of the map until later in March. So keep sending us your input anytime you've got it. Just know that the number of times that we're going to refresh the documents for you to see sort of come down to just a few times around the calls that we have. So February 9th will be the next one. And then the next one after that will be March 23rd, which is right before our final call that we do with you, that pre-event call that we do in March or early April, where we go over the final details. The big bad deadline to remember for that one is March 16th. That is the final opportunity for you to get us any change requests. If there's any infrastructure or equipment you want to ask about adding, any changes to the site layout, anything like that, March 16th is the last day we want to get those in. The only changes we're hoping that the only changes we'll make after that date will be to finalize and add the teams and sponsor information, because those deadlines come a little bit after that March 16th deadline. We'll review all the new documents again on that third call that we have with you, and then mark everything as capital F final and put it in the event book, which will be ready on April 17th, 1 week before the event. Already right knocking on the door of it, it feels like. Any questions about the deliverables timeline, the shared resource site, where you can find anything, what you can find there?
No, all good.
I think all this should be pretty familiar to you. You guys are, yes, over 700 participants. So I did want to just check back in on this. We didn't have our call with you in October, which is when we went over this primarily with a lot of the other markets. Hopefully you've seen some information about these infrastructure changes already. They've come down via PanCan and a couple different places over the last couple of months. But basically, PanCan made the decision to make some changes to the infrastructure for the entire PurpleStride series. Mostly this is affecting events that have fewer than 700 participants. Kansas City is just above that threshold. So a lot of the stuff that you see listed in the middle here as core package won't apply to you. You would still be considered the expanded package of 700 or more participants. A couple things just to make sure you are aware of, because you'll start to see these changes reflected in the maps and the tent orders that we look at today on the call. Is first the start finish line. In the past, we've always had that truss structure with the start finish banner on it at the start finish line. For 2026, you will only have the truss structure for your start finish if you have a premier sponsor. And the reason for that is that the premier sponsor goes on the start finish banner. So we need a nice firm structure to hold that up on. Does Kansas City have a premier sponsor, or have you historically? I don't know if that's an error. Okay. So if that changes, great. This is something that we certainly can add once you get your sponsors a little bit more lined up. I know we're still a little bit early in that process. If you don't end up with the premier sponsor, what we're looking to do is pivot instead to balloon arch or balloon columns if you want that for the start finish. I believe some markets are talking about getting start finish feather flags to use at the start finish line. We just won't have that truss structure as part of the infrastructure unless that premier sponsor banner is going to go on it. So that's one that you'll notice the face of the event looking a little bit different with that. The other big one to point out is down here highlighted on the bottom right, and hopefully you knew about this already. No t-shirt distribution on events this year at all on any events. So the t-shirt tent will be gone. Did you know this already?
That is so exciting. It has been the top since it was announced, and we are elated.
That's the response I'm always happy to hear. There, believe it or not, are a few markets that are like, what? No t-shirts? I'm like, it's a lot to do. So I'm glad to hear that you were happy about that news. It'll open up some space in your event village that we can play around with putting other things in that area, but no t-shirts anywhere. They're all going to be fulfilled and sent out ahead of the event. So nothing you have to worry about there. Everything else on here should be pretty familiar. There may be a couple things that we're asking you about if you want to do a little bit differently as we go through, but really it's that start finish line and the absence of the t-shirt tent for this year. This slide with this whole chart on it, if you wanted to look at it in more detail, is on the shared resource site also. So you can dive in, and as I mentioned, we'll share this deck after the call so you can see it on here as well. Any questions about any of this?
No, I don't think so.
Me asking you if you have questions is my chance to drink water, so it works out for everybody. The last thing I just wanted to bring up, don't think Kansas City has been too affected. Like, I know you had storms, pretty bad storms last year or the year before that brought a lot of wind to your event, but just want to make you aware of the weather contingency that we have. We do have plans in place to deal with inclement weather, whether that's cold, unseasonable cold and rain, or if you're in a market like Phoenix or Houston, they are dealing with heat on the other end of the spectrum. We do have some elements in place that we can call in if it is looking like the weather is going to be uncooperative ahead of your event. We'll start to look at this about a week or 10 days ahead of the event to look at what the forecasts are telling us. And if it does look that any of these things are going to be hitting Kansas City, that's when we can sort of initiate some of these elements to bring them, whether that's a tent to cover the stage, although you guys are up on the stage at the amphitheater here, so you're covered anyway. But things like heaters or sidewalls for tents, if it's going to be particularly windy or cold. And then on the other extreme for hot weather, there sometimes we'll bring in extra shade tents and things like that. You don't need to concern yourself with any of this. I'm just making you aware that this is what we go through for the weather contingency. It's just not going to happen until we get much closer to the event. Any questions on any of this?
No, I think we're good.
You guys are so easy. All right, I'm going to pass over the screen share to Ashley, and she's going to take us through the site map, the route, and then we will talk about the vendor order after that. While Ashley's pulling her screen up, just confirming one more time that the timeline that we have in place is going to be the same as last year, with 9 a.m. site open, 10 o'clock opening ceremony, 11 o'clock walk start, and 1 o'clock event end. Are those still the good times that you have in mind?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that still sounds great.
Excellent. All right, Ashley, take us through the site.
All right. Is this large enough on your screens?
Yeah,
I think so.
Okay, great.
Yep, looks good.
Cool. Like Erin said, this should look pretty familiar. No rule changes, but happy to make those edits if you have them, or this map was passed down. So if things look a little bit different on the ground level, now's the chance to make changes in live time. So I have a parking map that we can go over later, but folks are coming from this direction. I will pass this start and finish. Go around this building. We have registration, donation, volunteer check-in. Folks can walk down, stop, get some food. Kids can stop at the Purple Play Zone, check out on this outer ring here, wide use stride, the pro teams, our photo area, and then in this little inner half circle ring, we have the all-star teams, the sponsors, and the survivors, and then we have the covered stage with the sound and the DJ. So this should look pretty familiar. Do you all have any edits? Do things look different on the ground level? Again, happy to make these live edits now, or if we're good to keep it rinse and repeat, I will click save.
The sponsor teams and all-star teams that are on here are just reflective of what you had actually on the event last year. We understand that those numbers may change, and we'll make those adjustments to the final map and go over that with you on our next call.
I think the only thing that we had last year that we kind of wanted to move was the pro teams and the YI stride, to kind of flip them.
Okay.
I think that was really the only thing that we had last year. Survivors liked where they were. Everybody else was good. We just had so many more people in the pro teams tent that they overcrowded into the survivor area. So we thought we'd kind of just flip them around a little bit.
Yeah, give them their own space to spill out on the other side.
So like this, just a true like flip.
Yeah, that kind of works for me. Sarah, does that sound good?
Yeah, I think that looks good.
And as you guys know, once you get out there on the ground, while load-in is happening, you have so much space to work with here that if, you get out there and you look at things, we want to bump this pro teams tent down, 20 feet to the right or anything like that. You have total flexibility with making those small adjustments on the fly too. This is just sort of the groundwork and what we provide to the tent company, knowing that you'll instruct them, and our staff will help with that while the setup is happening.
Yeah, everything's fine.
Excellent.
I have a quick question too. I did talk to the site, and they had and this, you don't have to have an answer now, but they wanted to know if you plan on using the concessions again this year. So something to think about. I think they said last year it seemed like only the event staff was using it, so they didn't know if that was going to be the same case or what.
Normally we have a decent turnout to the concessions, so
Okay.
that's news to me. But I do have an offer for a coffee truck, like a food truck, but I didn't know what Grandview's restrictions were on that, if we could bring it in or not. So that was the only thing that I had. So Sarah, do we want to do concessions again if they say that they didn't have a great turnout last year?
I mean, does it cost us anything to do it?
No, they just
No, it
shared that information and they're totally fine with you doing it or not doing it. They just wanted to know if we were thinking of doing it or not.
I mean, I say why not? I know I saw quite a few of our participants.
Using
I
it.
know.
And they do a
that
lot of
morning,
events, so they could have been mistaken too.
It's also their first event of the year. Everything for the amphitheater opens for us. So they have to do the lawn care and everything. This is the first event of the season for the amphitheater. So it's also a little understocked in things.
Yeah.
They're used to seeing 10,000 people for a concert. So
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So yeah, let's leave the concession there, and then I do want to jump back when we come to time to talk about that food truck that's been offered. So
yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, we'll find out from the site what, if any, restrictions they have, if we need to get food permitting for the county or anything like that. It really does vary from city to city. So Ashley, we'll dig into that a little bit more, and then we'll follow up with you guys. If there is any permitting required, or we need like a COI from the coffee truck or anything like that, it'll fall to you guys to obtain those documents and then share them with us so we can share them with the site. But we'll give you a clear rundown of what, if anything, is required. You could luck out and they'll just be like, yeah, whatever, just show up and park. But if there's anything more that's required, we'll let you know what that is.
awesome. Thank you.
Great. Parking or route map next?
Parking.
Parking. Okay. So here's the participant parking and survivor parking. So we have this lot right here to the south, and then this lot to the north right here. And then we have the survivor that's the closest to the event village. I did listen or saw some notes last year and have this on my radar about this road in particular, as far as the route and making sure this parking lot's managed so that for safety lenses, folks are leaving the lot and the folks are coming back from the route, there's no issues there. So I'm curious at what your feedback is. I have a few ideas. I'm meeting with PD at the end of the month to talk through some of those ideas too.
Our parking attendants last year, nice way to put this, were incompetent.
Just put it in a not nice way. Whatever we gotta hear.
They sucked.
Okay.
Okay.
By the time they had parked everyone, they just sat in their vehicles the rest of the time. We asked the gentleman who was supposed to be in charge to make sure that his people that were still in the lot stopped people from leaving, or at least made sure that the people in the road weren't in front of them as they were leaving. And it was like talking to a wall. They were all children. Yeah, so that was one thing that we did have that they weren't very productive, and thinking on your feet. Like, if you've done this before, you should know that cars shouldn't be leaving as people are walking in front of them.
Right.
It was just more of a why do I have to tell you that, and why aren't you listening that I told you that?
Right.
Situation.
Yeah.
So the only thing else on here is that your survivor parking, that's actually the entry driveway to the building. You see the little like shoot out concrete area
Is it
above
this
you?
way?
Yeah, right there. Yeah, that has actual parking spots.
Okay.
It's a wide side, kind of like a street, and you just park on both sides of it. So
Thank you. Yeah, I inherited
You're
this map, so thank you. I appreciate that.
no problem at all. Yeah, so all of
So-
that other thing is correct. Yeah.
So just to reiterate, for this area in particular, it sounds like we need to work through with our vendor to make sure that they're
Yeah.
communicating. We don't need to figure out how to reroute people or anything like that. It was more of just directing traffic and understanding
Absolutely.
expectations. Okay.
Yeah, the
Okay.
officers open the street one side at a time once our participants have entered into the actual route. So they open traffic one lane at a time. So left can go, right can go. And so if left is closed, you can't turn left. So the parking attendant needs to be aware of the officer that's standing right in front of them going, no, they can't
Yeah.
turn that way.
Mhm. Okay.
So
That makes sense.
yeah, it's just better communication. They weren't hearing what we were telling them.
That's good to know. I'm sorry that happened, but this is the kind of vendor feedback that we can only get from folks who were there and saw it happening. So appreciate you letting us know. We're definitely early enough in the process right now that as our purchasing team is working on booking these vendors again, if we do end up going back with the same company, that can at least be a very frank conversation that they have with them that the expectations that we had of their staff were not met, and let them know that needs to be done better this year.
Yeah.
All good. I'll jump to the routes. Zoom. Sorry, no, thank you. Zoom out so that we can see the whole thing, and then I'll scoot back in. So here's the amphitheater, the site, and then the long purple, darker purple is the longer route, and then the lighter purple is the shorter route. So folks will leave the amphitheater and they'll walk along Briars Road, and they'll pick up the trail right here, and then they'll do the loop around the little blue river here. And they'll just circle around, heading north and coming back down south. And I'm heading back west to head back to the sites. And then obviously you can see the shorter route right here, just circles around this parking lot and comes up back into the site too. So everything should look the same. It's all viewable on my maps as well.
And there was feedback when you booked your meeting, Stephanie, about wanting to discuss maybe some alternate options for the short route here.
It's ugly. It goes through a parking lot.
Yeah.
Compared to the rest of our beautifully paved trails that are tree lined, and it's just very beautiful. It's a state park that we're walking through. And, that whole section, very well done, very beautiful. And I just don't know if we can do anything about it.
Mm-hmm. What about, sorry, Ashley, if I don't know what the distance would be, and Ashley, you need to clock this out a little bit, but I think right where your hand cursor is,
here.
right where the loop
turn around.
splits. If we had everybody coming out at least that far, and then folks who didn't want to do the full distance could just turn around there and go back on the same path while the long haulers go do the big loop.
Yeah.
That would keep everybody at least on that section, that first section of trail.
The majority of our participants are not disabled or anything like that, and it is a paved trail, so there is that working in our favor as well. I just think it would be nicer for them to enjoy something other than a kid's playground in a parking lot.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
That is my only qualm about going on that shorter route, is that it is just not very nice. And I don't think they would mind if it was a little longer.
Mm-hmm. And ultimately, because that first section of the route is just an out and back on the same trail, people can turn around anywhere. Like if they want to, if they make it half of the way to out there and decide that's enough for them, it's not, a huge hazard to have a few folks turning around early. But
and we start anyway, so we always let the ones that are doing the longer go first,
right,
before we release walkers. So
right. No, I think that's the right move.
All right, my line's not perfect, but it's looking at
one side of the street.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. One side of the street.
It keeps everybody from having to cross the street and over.
Mm-hmm.
Keeps everybody on one side of the street.
It does. Looks like it's 1.24 miles. Again, they can turn around whenever, or we can shorten that too. But if we
over a mile, that's fine.
What do you
think, Sarah?
So that round trip being just over a mile is pretty standard.
Yeah, I think so.
Great. Okay. If y'all are good, I'll update this.
And if we don't have to do that crossing at Byers, then that may impact the amount of police presence that is needed there too, because I know that was a big part of what we've had to deal with in the past.
There's no sidewalk on this side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's no sidewalk on that parking lot side. The sidewalk is on the opposite side. So what we did last year was they closed the one side of the road and all the participants went down one side of the road.
Okay. That works then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Great. Anything else for the route?
That was it.
Easy enough to find a good workaround there. Actually, I'm not sure if you have to have conversations with anybody just to make sure that that's approved. But since it's part of the route we're already using anyway, then I don't see why there would be any issue with that. All right, let's take a quick look at the vendor tracker. So Stephanie and Sarah, you've been kind of in the PurpleStride trenches with us for a little bit. In past years, if you've spent any time looking at the vendor tracker that we've had in the past, you will notice that it looks quite different this year. We basically did a total overhaul of this document where we're tracking all our vendors. Where we used to have it divided up by vendor, and each page sort of represented the tent vendor, the AV vendor, the porta potties, the security, and you could go vendor by vendor and see what they were providing. We've reformatted it now so that it's really more divided up by area of the event, which I think is a more intuitive way for our staff and volunteers on the ground to be looking at things. So let me just take you through this real quick. And then this is something that I definitely would recommend you go back and look at when you have a little bit more time. Honestly, if it looks and feels a little bit overwhelming right now, that's understandable. But if you spend about 15 or 20 minutes with this document, it's all going to become very clear and make a lot more sense. But I'm just going to pop through it real quick now to sort of give you the highlights. This first page is just some summary information. Honestly, nothing you need to concern yourself with at all. This is mostly for our purchasing and production teams. Down on page 2, where it says vendor summary at the heading, this is where we're going to start to be and have already started to be tracking the vendors as we're booking them. So when we have a vendor booked, you'll see their company name on here, who our contact person is, things like the on-event contact name. That information will be filled in later as we get closer to the event. And sometimes the person or people who we book with are not the people that are actually going to be there. So we get that all updated. Right now, this list is very exhaustive, and there's a lot of things on here that we will not be ordering, you will not need for your event, and you may say, well, then why is it on here? Because this is a new format to this document that we're using across all of the events we do for all of our clients, it has everything on it right now. Things like fans and plywood and VIP security that we may be using for other events that we're doing, we're not using for PurpleStride. And ultimately, we will delete these lines out of the document so that it will be a lot shorter, a lot more condensed, and we'll just focus on the things that you have. But for right now, since our teams are all just sort of getting used to the new format, we decided to, put more information on there than was needed to begin with and take stuff off as we don't need it, rather than trying to insert stuff back in if we find we do need it at a later time. So just want you to be aware of that. Moving on, this is where everything sort of starts to get divided up by area of the event. So 1, 2, and 3 here at the beginning are just some general site supplies and services, things that don't necessarily have one specific place that they're going to be on the event site. They're just in general things that you're going to have on hand, like trash bags, radios, the golf carts. Anywhere you see a quantity or a number, these are things that we're going to be ordering. If you see a 0, the plan is not to have to order that for anything. These numbers are all based on what we had actually on your order last year. That's our starting point for this year. Adjustments can still be made to this. But you'll see like the items on this list that have quantities next to them are things that we're getting: trash bags, trash bins. We get all that from the site, so we won't be ordering those for you. We will delete those lines off of the document at some point so that all that is on here are things that we're actually getting. Same with some general route supplies and site services, things like setting up the banners and tables and chairs. We have quantityed out there. Beyond that, you start to get into the specific areas of the event village. So the idea behind this is that you or our staff on the ground or any volunteer can take this list from the event book, walk around the event village, tent by tent, area by area, and know exactly what's supposed to be in each of those areas. So starting here with like Why Do You Stride, for example, we have a 10 by 10 tent here, one of those. We have some tent weights to hold it down. We're going to get you some tables and chairs, quick covers to cover the tables, pipe and drape to hold up the signage. So again, you're looking anywhere where there's a quantity is something that we are going to order. Anywhere you see a 0 is something that we don't need. Don't have to get a generator here because the site has power. So you can take this area by area and see, this is what we're going to have for our food and beverage area. This is what we plan to have on hand for the pro teams area, and so on as we go down the list. The all-star teams and sponsors, we will eventually fill this in with the actual team names of what the all-star teams are and the sponsor names. And of course, we'll have whatever number of all-star teams and sponsors you have, that will all be reflected on here. Again, these are just placeholders based on what you had last year for right now. And the other thing that's not on this version of the document, but will be on future versions, is down here under where it says vendor report. There's going to be kind of a vendor by vendor snapshot down here that tells you exactly how many of everything the tent vendor is bringing. So in this case, you can look at it and go, okay, we've got the tent vendor supposed to bring 150 chairs and 47 tables and 15 sets of pipe and drape. I can look at this list next to the invoice they hand us as they're setting stuff up and go, okay, yes, these numbers match up. So all of this is going to be super helpful for the team on the ground who is managing the delivery and the distribution and the setup of all this stuff. And I think it actually just cleans up the whole document quite a bit from what it was before, to give you a very clear and simple indication of, this is what this section is going to have, and this is how many of each of these things they're going to have there. Any questions on this, on my very quick and breakneck rundown of the new format?
Can you scroll back to survivors?
Of course.
The only thing we wanted to add to survivors was like the VIP roping or fencing of some sort.
Okay, so like a stanchion or picket fencing?
Yeah, something like that. Something, last year we used old vintage, as what we're calling it, OG and flags to separate off. Last year's event was a throwback event, and it's our 15th anniversary, so we had a lot of our throwback stuff because we're hoarders. And so we had original. Yeah, we had original Pan-Can stuff. So we used it to kind of block off the area from just everybody being able to walk in, because we provide them with additional snacks and gifts and things like that. So
So is the
only
idea that you want it to be around like the perimeter of the tent itself, or sort of extend out and
it
patio
extends
in,
out.
if you will,
Yes.
like the
We
entire
kind of
area? Okay.
Yeah, we do a like a additional area around the tent, and kind of block it off. So we kind of
Okay.
leave it open.
If you can give us, you don't have to do this right this second, but sort of a ballpark in terms of number of feet you would need of the white picket fencing in particular comes in like 8-foot lengths. Same with the bike rack barricade, if you wanted to go with that, or the stanchions that are just like the expandable velvet rope sort of stanchions. Any of those could be options. We just will choose the best one based on how much of it we need, if that makes sense.
Oh, sounds good. Sounds good. And is it the same tent vendor as last year?
I believe so.
They did fantastic.
Quest Events, was that who you had last year? Do you recall? I didn't hear that they were switching it this year, so
I don't remember if that's who it was, but our tent vendor last year did phenomenal compared to the year
great.
before.
Great. Yeah, the year before was kind of a disaster, but I'm glad that they were better last year.
Much better. They were quick. They had everything put up in like a blink of an eye, and everything tore down super fast. It was great.
Love that. Love that. Yeah, so let us know sort of a ballpark on how much length you think you might need. You can just shoot us an email when you crunch that out a little bit. And we'll see about what most tent companies have the picket fencing and the stanchion as options. Depending on how much of it we're be ordering and what the cost would be on that, we may have to run that up for approval from PanCan. But in most cases, we can approve adding some picket fence without there being any issue.
All right, sounds great.
Great.
I think that was it. What?
Oh, Sarah, any questions from you? Anything else about the vendor tracker?
I'm all good.
All right. So the next version you see with the February 9th upload, as I said, will be condensed down to remove things that are just not relevant or applicable to your event. So that will help. And then we're continuing to hone and fine tune this new format as we all get used to using it. But I really do think it is quite a bit more intuitive than the mess of a spreadsheet that we've had in the past. We got the thumbs up from Aaron Romy, so that's all I need. That's good enough for me. Any other questions from you guys?
No, you know.
I feel like we've accomplished so much on this call already. We rerouted the short route and moved the proteins tent. Yeah, like we're getting stuff done.
We're done. Call it quits.
Well, we don't call it quits, and our conversation definitely doesn't end when this call is over. So you will continue to connect with us if there's anything that you need. But it is copy paste Bill over here for this one. So we're looking forward to that. Keep in mind the January 30th deadline for any additional changes that you want to see reflected on the next round of documents. After that, it'll be March before we talk again. Yes, you always know when I'm about to wrap the call up and just get a little bit needy. March when we talk again for the pre-event call that we'll have to go over those final details. But if anything comes up before then that requires some longer conversation, you know, we're always here and can throw a call on the calendar if we need to. Yeah, and keep your eye out February 9th for the new documents. Let us know if there's anything else that you need. And because we cannot say it enough, thank you very much. We give you the bones, the logistical pieces for the event. You guys are definitely the ones who bring the whole thing to life and make it such a special experience for your participants. So thank you for coming back year after year and putting your heart and souls into making PurpleStride amazing. We're looking forward to working with you again.
Thank you guys for handling all the hard paperwork, because I don't want to do that part.
Ashley loves it so much.
I do, I really do.
All right, ladies. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you guys so much.
Likewise. We'll talk with you soon. Take care.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bye.